Children's and Household Tales. Collected by the Brothers Grimm. The Frog King or the Iron Heinrich. This video is not intended to present an atmospheric narrative. Rather, it is created for those who seek to read the original stories as they were published in 1812, faithfully translated from German. An interpretation is provided at the end for deeper insight. Once upon a time, there was a king's daughter who went out into the forest and sat by a cool well. She had a golden ball, which was her favorite toy. She threw it into the air, caught it again, and took great pleasure in playing with it. One time, she threw the ball so high that as she reached out and curled her fingers to catch it, she missed. The ball hit the ground, rolled, and fell straight into the water. The king's daughter looked after it in shock, but the well was so deep that she could not see the bottom. She began to weep bitterly and lament. "Oh, if only I could get my ball back, I would give anything for it, my clothes, my jewels, my pearls, and anything else in the world." As she was lamenting, a frog poked its head out of the water and said, "Princess, why are you crying so miserably?" "Oh," she said, "you nasty frog. How could you possibly help me? My golden ball has fallen into the well." The frog replied, "I do not want your pearls, your jewels, or your clothes, but if you will take me as your companion, let me sit beside you, eat from your golden plate, and sleep in your little bed, and if you will love and cherish me, then I will fetch your ball for you." The king's daughter thought to herself, "What nonsense this foolish frog speaks. He must remain in his water. But perhaps he can get my ball for me, so I will just say yes." And she said, "Yes, sure, if you bring me my golden ball, I promise you everything." The frog dipped his head into the water and dived down. It didn't take long before he surfaced again, holding the golden ball in his mouth. He threw it onto the land. When the king's daughter saw her beloved toy again, she quickly ran to pick it up. She was so happy to have it back in her hands that she thought of nothing else and hurried home. The frog called after her, "Wait, princess. Take me with you, as you promised." But she didn't listen. The next day, as the king's daughter sat at the dining table, she heard something climbing up the marble staircase. Plish, plash. Plish, plash. Soon, there was a knock at the door, and a voice called, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me." She ran to open the door and saw the frog. She had completely forgotten about him. Frightened, she quickly slammed the door shut and returned to the table. The king noticed her troubled expression and asked, "Why are you afraid?" "There is a nasty frog outside," she said. "He fetched my golden ball from the water, and I promised he could be my companion. But I never believed he could leave his water. Now he is outside the door and wants to come in." Just then, the knocking came again, and the frog called, "Princess, youngest princess. Open the door for me. Do you not remember what you promised me? By the cool well water. Princess, youngest princess. Open the door for me." The king said, "What you have promised, you must keep. Go and open the door for him." She obeyed. The frog hopped in and followed her all the way to her chair. When she sat down again, he said, "Lift me up to sit next to you." She hesitated, but the king commanded her to do so. When the frog was on the chair, he said, "Now push your golden plate closer so I can eat from it." She had to obey. When he had eaten his fill, he said, "Now I am tired and want to sleep. Carry me to your room, make your little bed ready, and let us lie down together." The princess was horrified. She was afraid of the cold frog, and she could not imagine touching him, let alone letting him sleep in her bed. She began to weep and refused outright. But the king grew angry and commanded her, "What you have promised, you must do, or I will be displeased with you." It was no use, she had to do as her father wished. But she was furious in her heart. She picked up the frog with 2 fingers, carried him upstairs to her room, and placed him on her bed. But instead of letting him lie beside her, she threw him smack against the wall. "Now you'll leave me alone, you disgusting frog," she cried. But instead of falling lifeless to the ground, as soon as he landed on the bed, the frog transformed into a handsome young prince. He was now her dear companion, and she cherished him, as she had promised. They lay down happily together and fell asleep. The next morning, a splendid carriage arrived, drawn by 8 horses adorned with feathers and golden harnesses. Behind it stood the prince's loyal servant, Heinrich. He had been so heartbroken by his master's transformation that he had bound his heart with 3 iron bands to keep it from breaking in sorrow. The prince climbed into the carriage with the princess, and Heinrich stood at the back. They set off for the prince's kingdom. As they had traveled a short distance, the prince heard a loud crack behind him. He turned around and called, "Heinrich, the carriage is breaking." But Heinrich replied, "No, my lord, the carriage does not break. It is a band from my heart that snaps. For my heart was in great pain when you sat in the well, when you were a frog." Once more, and then again, they heard loud cracks. The prince thought the carriage was breaking, but it was only the iron bands around Heinrich's heart snapping open, for his master was now freed and happy. A possible interpretation considering the time period. The Brothers Grimm aimed to preserve folk culture rather than convey explicit political messages. However, since they lived in a time of social change, their tales reflect the values of their era. The Frog King may unconsciously represent both feudal ideals and the transition toward a new society. Loyalty is the central message. The fairy tale presents 2 contrasting forms of loyalty. Heinrich embodies voluntary, unwavering loyalty. He remains faithful to his master, no matter the circumstances, and sees his master's happiness as his own salvation. The princess demonstrates reluctant, forced loyalty. She acts only out of social obligation and accepts the prince only after he proves himself worthy. Historical significance. In the feudal world, a servant's loyalty to his master was paramount, while in courtly society, nobles, especially women, were also expected to uphold their commitments and promises, even if unwillingly. Conclusion. The story highlights 2 kinds of loyalty: Heinrich's true devotion, which is selfless and rewarded, and the princess's forced obligation, driven by duty. It reflects societal expectations but suggests that genuine loyalty is more meaningful than mere compliance. What do you think? Was this just a bedtime story, or does it hide a deeper meaning? Do you have your own interpretation? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear them. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing for more stories and discussions. And if you have any constructive feedback, let me know, I'm always looking to improve.